26, and I'll call this special open meeting of the City of St. John Finance Committee to order. There's one item on the agenda, and that's item 1.1, the Integrated Bilateral Fund. So I'll ask for a motion to accept the agenda. Mayor Reardon, Councillor Radwin, all in favor, aye. Contrary minded, carried. So that brings us to item 1.1, the integrated bilateral.
I believe our chair has frozen. We'll just give him a minute to reconnect.
Did you miss me? Apologies. One of my children came home and joined the Wi-Fi and it kicked me out. We're back. So I think Commissioner McGovern, you were about to introduce, or I was about to say you were about to introduce the Integrated Bilateral Funding Agreement topic. Councillor Radwin. Councillor Radwin, do you first, just before we start?
Yeah, sorry, Chair. I just need to declare a conflict just for one line on this budget on this item. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGovern.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Sullivan and members of Finance Committee. The report before you this afternoon is an update to the 2022 Integrated Bilateral Funding Program and the proposed submission. A very similar report was endorsed by this Finance Committee in March of this year, which detailed the Integrated Bilateral Funding Program, the parameters, and the proposed submissions by the city. Since then, based on feedback from the Regional Development Corporation, new priority projects requiring funding, and overall recent changes on the program itself having been updated, it was important for us to come back before Finance Committee to present to you this update. And with that, we've undertaken the update, and Mr. Baker, the Director of Engineering and Chief City Engineer, will provide you with the highlights. Mr. Baker, over to you.
Thank you, Brent. Good afternoon, Councillor, Chairman Sullivan and members of Finance Committee. The financial breakdown for the Integrated Bilateral Program remains the same as what was before Finance Committee in March 2022. However, some important dates have changed. There has been an overall extension to the expiry date for the program, which is now expires on March 31st, 2034. The actual original expiry date was March 31st, 2028. The project construction timelines were also changed. All project construction must now be completed by October 2033. The original construction completion date was October 2027. Lastly, the deadline for federal approval has also changed to March 31st, 2023. It was originally March 31st, 2025. Therefore, with the new date changing to March 2023, it is important that the city identify and submit its funding priorities at this time. I should note to date that the city has not received written confirmation from the province regarding these program dates, but it is expected that this is forthcoming. Considering feedback from RDC, priority projects needing funding, and changes in the overall cost of construction, the previous 2022 Integrated Bilateral Program was adjusted. Changes of note are, where applicable, project budget estimates were increased to account for the rising costs of construction projects. Various sewer separation and street reconstruction projects in the Central Peninsula were removed from the program in order to reallocate funding. The green fleet plan for the city's sedans and SUVs was removed from the proposed program, as RDC informed the city that it did not meet the program parameters. A Lancaster Lagoon aeration renewal project was added to the proposed program. This project would involve the upgrade of the air piping system at one of the city's wastewater treatment facilities, where its air piping components are beyond their useful lives. The project was listed in the Utilities 2023 capital program. However, there is insufficient funding to complete. There is insufficient funding to complete the work. Therefore, the integrated bilateral funding would enable the funding of this project, this important project. Lastly, the Retail Drive realignment project was added to the proposed program. This project would involve the realigning of the intersection of Ashburn Lake Road and Retail Drive at Rossay Avenue and improve the substandard transportation design that was originally constructed as a short-term solution. Of note, the municipal share of this project is to be funded by the province and/or federal government, as the city's intent is to only fund the ineligible project costs. While I put this list before you on this afternoon, I must note that some projects could be subject to further adjustments because of ongoing discussions with funding partners. However, if there are any changes in the project list, we would be back to Finance Committee to advise of those modifications. The Finance Committee report details the recommendations before Finance Committee. With that, I will take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Questions from committee?
I'm not sure if Mr. Baker's purple for everyone, but that's a new one for me.
I'm glad you mentioned it. It's a very nice kind of purple on purple picture, but the audio is still working well.
So sometimes you've got to liven up these reports a little bit.
Yes. So if there are no questions or recommendations in our kit, recommended that Finance Committee endorse the updated proposed project list for application to the integrated bilateral agreement funding opportunity and direct staff to bring back recommendations as part of the 2023 capital budget process. Moved by Councillor Hickey, seconded by Mayor Reardon. Just before we take the question, this does actually speak to good work that our staff is doing long term, but also, work that's being done by your finance staff coming forward in the not too distant future. I think on long term capital plans, right? These applications are going out, stretching out 5 and 10 years. So we're trying to get a plan to match those. So that is good. Good work by staff. So on the motion, all in favor, aye. Contrary minded, carried. I think that wraps things up. CFO Fudge, is there anything else we need to do, or was that it?
That would be it. Thank you.
Thanks. So I will take a motion to adjourn. Mayor Reardon, Councillor Radwin, all in favor, aye. Opposed? Thanks everyone for joining us for the special session, and we will see you next time. We are
Thanks, everyone.
adjourned.